Yeah. Unfortunately, OBS is crashing every time that I am overusing selection for some reason. It's not a good thing. I think I actually know why. Because I worked with the group instead of with layer. Yeah, so unfortunately OBS crashing, it crashed 2 times in a row. Because of the problems with selection. I think we need to deal with this because we have a lot of filter masks in here. What if I actually copy this value so it's 20 or 21? Let's make it, put it in here. What? Put it in here. This is the value for our statues. Now I'm going to probably try to get rid of this layer completely, because I think this layer actually creates a crush. And then we will turn things on. So you see, not dark enough for our floor, unfortunately. We need to make them much darker. It's kind of a bummer. Need to make them darker. So that means that this is super annoying. I actually had to work with a better representation. Everything looks awful because I already lost the original. Actually don't want to delete it. Instead, let's just delete the layers. What do we had here though? We had filter. What filter mask was here? Levels. Oh, actually, let's just delete the layers itself. The layers. I'll probably accept this one. Where the floor gone? Please show me the floor. everything seems confusing for me now. I don't get why statues are... Why walls are... Walls needs to be lighter. What's happening? What's happening? I don't know what I did, but I think I messed something up. Don't get what exactly. Problem is, if I'm going to go too far, I could lose. Okay, so at this point we lost the connection. That means that okay, this is actually the real values that we established. So now I actually need to, I don't want to lose them. So again, let's just right away make things more clear. Walls, and this is our floor. I hope, no, floor probably spells differently. Yeah, this is actually floor. Okay, floor. Walls. This is our colors. Organizing things is something that we need to do constantly, because if we're not going to organize things, we just basically will confuse ourselves. So what I did, I confused myself with strange layer placements. So the problem is, I need information from this group of layers. You gotta be kidding me. Seriously, this is the same? You see? The crazy difference. But they are the same value. Sorry about that. So, yeah. Keep this one, keep this one. There's a couple of ways to do this. Either I will work with the floor layer, because we need to do something with the floor layer. There's a lot of things to actually overpaint here, and I don't want to do that, so kind of want to make quick adjustments. Since my brain doesn't work for some reason, because I'm tired, I didn't sleep a couple of days properly, so I'm not functioning well. There's a lesson in here. Of course, there is a lesson. I actually don't care about these values. I'm still going to rework them from ground up, so I'm not going to bother about them that much. The only thing that I sorry about that. The only thing that I need to consider here is this. I actually could delete everything from here. We don't have any information, any valuable information here. And then just put this layer on top. And that's kind of it. Yeah. That's the right way to do that. So most of our things didn't change. Everything stays the same. The only thing we need to do is to cover emptiness. Let's save this. Trying to not bother about details. Okay, statues, so is these things, they need to... Probably this dark would work. But the problem is they're pretty close to... Yeah, we need to make them a little bit lighter. Probably 25. They're going to be lighter? It's going to look strange. Yeah, okay, I need to test these things. Okay, now they're the same, but the floor not working. I think we need to go darker? Even darker? It's not going to work with the floor either. I guess we need to actually make them the same as bomb in value. It's kind of the only way, because we are going to put them in the floor and they need to create a contrast in the floor, so it's not going to work. There's a lot of things in here. So let's just make them darker and see how they're going to look. But we need to be careful. What's this line makes? Oh, yeah. Actually, swords, they need to be lighter, because if I'm going to make them this way, they're just going to... Maybe it could be even cool thing that these things the same value. Okay, unisolate things. Okay, this works better. So these values are kind of work, and essentially make things a little bit darker, which is a good thing for us, because again, I want to present pretty dark mood for this work. Although it's going to be comedic, I think it's just going to have like pretty interesting balance between comedy and something dark. Dark comedy. Yeah, definitely we'll go in additional 30 minutes, because unfortunately didn't managed, because like stream actually got disconnected halfway through the session, and making this part only 15 minutes, it's stupid, so I just extended at least to 45 minutes. So now at least I know what's actually causing the crash of the OBS, and the crash of the OBS actually caused by the fact when we're actually choosing a particular group and we are trying to select inside this group different planes. In order to prevent this from crashing, we need to select particular layers that have this information and select inside them instead. Oh, by the way, this thing needs to be dark too, so let's do the same with this one. Isolate it and make it dark. Whoa. Select opaque. Unisolated. 12. For some reason it's not. Oh, because we have a filter in here. What type of filter we have here? Let's hope it's not invert. This is actually levels. Get rid of this filter. So you tell me without a filter, it actually the value that we need. Awesome. Pretty cool. So yeah, we actually feeling this darkness that coming and pressing on our characters, as opposed to here we're not necessarily feeling this darkness, and right here is just basically we're not feeling any threat at all. It's like, oh, this is awesome, I don't know, thing. We feel a little bit more positive with this environment, a little bit more darker with this environment, but pretty dark with this environment. So this is actually super dark, which is kind of cool for local values, because again, this is Cybertron. Cybertron predominantly dark. It's a dark world. It's full of cold creatures, metallic creatures, so metal creatures. Actually, kind of works fine. Cool. Nope. Ideally, I need to actually combine them in one layer. It's super annoying, the fact that they are separate, because I think I will. I think I can do this at this point, because separating them at this point is not important. I kind of need to connect them instead. The lesson that I'm going to do before connecting them and actually separate swords. So now thinking about swords, they need to be either darker or lighter. In references that we actually previously saw for the Transformers, in particular places, their swords actually looks darker or lighter, or all weaponry actually appears in the light a little bit more lighter in value. So for instance, maybe this is just because the weaponry made from steel, stainless steel, and the Transformers themselves, they have a little bit different texture on them. So everything that revolves the Transformers, the metallic appearance of their material, it kind of didn't. It's not that present. For the most part, I think we're not going to see that much. So yeah, definitely need to make swords a little bit lighter, but how light? Definitely they're not going to be as light as the floor, So it means they need to be in between 12 and 25, which is kind of 20. Okay. I'll just work only with swords. Swords. Oh, cool. Actually, the value of the sword is right here. Actually, will create this separation that we needed for this statue, which is awesome, because now we have something to actually separate statue from the bomb. Okay, this sword is not visible at all because he's right here. Select a pack. Color it to 20. Oh, come on. We have walls the same value, which is kind of a problem. That means that sword needs to be a little bit lighter, maybe. Or it's going to intersect with walls or interfere. Yeah, I don't know about that. Again, I want for swords to actually be visible. I don't want them to just disappear because they're as dark as our statues. I want them to look like real weaponry. And the fact that these transformers are actually holding swords, it already kind of creates a particular need to separate these two, to accentuate the swords. Because if I'm going to make them similar value, too similar, we're not going to see these swords at all. So I definitely can't work with the floor. This is final value for the floor. It works perfect with value for the statues, and I think I will definitely keep value for the statues too. So I kind of like how it looks. Again, ceiling is going to be the same color as the floor. Okay, what else? By the way, this part, it's actually lighter. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I am aware that Chuck is awful, like crazy looking. We definitely need to work on him, on our final line art, because again, I'm not trying to make them look cool in here. It's not this type of stage. We're working with understanding or designing lighting. That's our prerogative. For now I will keep this one separate, though. I might change something with swords, but what I definitely want to combine is all these things. I think we actually need to do that, because I'm kind of sick of a lot of layers that I can't control properly. It's kind of annoying. So I think we don't need this layer. We already get rid of it. Draw. The same goes with the backgrounds, just make them as one. We actually have something. Oh, come on. For some reason, right click doesn't work. I'm pressing and it's not happening. Oh no, actually our wall's much lighter. Yes, exactly that. So yeah, I delete this group. So yeah, actually our walls are lighter. That kind of makes swords work in this particular value, which is awesome. So 30, 21, 12, slight division in here in -10, in 10 range, which is kind of cool. Slight division in here and with 5, 10. These are pretty separate. Again, we need to separate this part. Right here, division not that clear, but it's more than 10, which is good. Division in here, again, more than 10. Completely fine. More than 10. Actually, it's more than 10 too, right here. But again, we'll probably make this even more. We will accentuate this contrast by creating cast shadows in here, so it's definitely going to be interesting. Oh yeah, by the way, I need to work with cast shadows too, and the problem is cast shadows will create darker areas in here. That means that these things are not going to be that visible as they appear now, which kind of works, because the darker these things are, the darker mood is going to be represented. Okay, let's just make this campfire gorgeous. Yeah, no, I'm just cleaning up things. So we definitely need to get rid of this wall, so let's just do that. Just isolate this layer. Wait a minute. Select opaque. Nope, doesn't work. I guess we need to instead select walls separately and actually delete them. Turned on our walls. And now let's just make them as one. Combine floor. Again, I want this to be one layer. There's too many layers, just becomes too confusing. And of course, color things I will keep separate. Although I kind of should actually make them as one too. Just get rid of the mask. And combine them. Good. And recreate mask. Filter mask. We need to choose desaturate, choose luminosity 601, and okay. Now let's just make things, since this is like the original layer, I'll just make things a little bit better looking, although it's not important, but we need to get rid of the selection after effect. Again, we will completely change their silhouettes. We will make them better. We will make them even more readable. This is something that we're going to work with on the next stages. By the way, now it's probably the time to actually turn on the sketch, because without sketch we kind of don't have proper information. Well, let's go into references. I kind of need to see the okay, legs need to be the same color as the beak. Dum da 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 dim da dum dum. Dum da 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 dim da dum dum. Dum da 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 dim. Yeah, we gotta have in about 10 minutes till the end. Maybe 15, something like this. Okay. So yeah, now actually I like how things look. The fact that walls looks a little bit lighter, it actually makes work a little bit less darker, but it kind of adds the contrast, and I actually like how this looks, because we kind of kept the lightness of the walls. At the same, we accentuated our statues. They pretty visible and they are clear. They are a pretty important part of the composition, so I think we need to make them clear. So this is actually pretty cool. The only thing though, probably need to change, I need to make this one a little bit lighter. It's too dark, because now we have, so we need to find something in between. So we have 30 here, 25 here. By the way, not that big of a difference between walls and floor, which is kind of cool. Okay, this one 11. So we need to find something that will work for 25 value and 30 value. Definitely not 12. 25 lowest means that if we go to light, let's go 35. It's pretty strange to make these things glowy, because if I will make them as light as this one, it will just appear that these things are glowing, which is strange. But it could work. No, we actually need to make them, we need to keep them dark, but just make them less darker. So since 25 is the lowest number, I think we could go with probably 15. Or even 20. Yeah, 20 actually will work, because that way it's not going the appearance of these things in the floor not going to be that visible, which is a good thing for us. I don't want them to be super visible. They have to create contrast, but this contrast is not going to be strong contrast, because for the most part light is going to be pretty visible, or not visible. Come on, brain, work. So these parts, since they are on the floor, they're actually going to receive more light than things from the side, so it kind of makes things better. And now these lines are not distracting, because before that they kind of was too distracting, because they had the similar value to these statues. Now we actually get rid of this distraction, because we don't need this distraction. Again, it's all about contrast. The thing is, like, if you're not experienced artist, you still can control these things by understanding that, or by knowing that good paintings are usually good because they have awesome work on contrasts of textures, the contrasts, basically design work. Because again, the thing, when we're talking about contrasts, for the most parts it's design. We're talking about design. Again, don't want for these things to be super visible too. Not going to do that. They're going to be barely visible. Still a question what we need to do here. I wouldn't want to make them super light. We could create a pretty interesting contrast between light and dark. The same for the statues, which will make them pretty cool. Again, the more I'm working on this project, the more I'm becoming to understand that this is not perfect composition in any way, or like the perfect angle, like the point of view and whatever, but it works for particular purposes that we actually aiming at. It works. Because again, my main thing is to make sure that statues are going to be visible in full height. This basically was the whole problem why we actually worked with all these things. So like, I kind of tried to figure out, okay, I need to place Angry Birds in a particular angle for table to be visible, because I knew that I'm going to place a particular objects on the table. This was like a crucial thing for me. That was the controlling factor that I created for myself in order to make proper or right decisions, and not just wander around in the search of nothing or something that I don't know what I'm searching for. So by that, by understanding that I definitely need to create a visible top of the table, that was the first thing that I knew that I have to have in my work. So this was the first controllable thing. The second controllable thing, or thing that allowed me to control things, is I knew that I want to showcase statues in full height, and I couldn't do this with this angle. I definitely knew that I need to lower camera down. So by these things I actually understood, okay, now we solve the problem that allows us to show this table in the appropriate position to actually have the ability to place a particular subjects or objects on this table, which is awesome. But now we have another problem, another block, or not, another thing that we need to solve. Now we need to make sure that statues are going to be represented in full height, and they have to appear pretty big. And how we could do this? Okay, we need to lower down the camera, because if we're going to actually put camera higher, we're just going to see more and more table, like here. Then I just kind of tried to represent statues without representing them in full height. Then I figured out, okay, this is a pretty good way to actually represent statues in full height, or the closest way to do that. But it still lacked something. And then I decided, okay, we need to lower down camera even more. And by doing this, and actually making this interesting distortion, which is not distortion, it's actually the tilt of the wall itself. So walls are actually tilted. So it's not distortion created by perspective, it's distortion created by the direction of the wall, which is pretty strange, because ideally if you would see these type of statues standing on these type of walls, it would intimidate you, which was the whole point, to actually create this intimidation. It kind of presses you and pressures the characters in the main focus, again working with psychology, and that kind of was the thing. And I think I did it pretty good. Again, it's not ideal, but at least I like the result. And this is not the end. Like, when it's going to be rendered fully, it's definitely going to look better. But it already works, and this is the thing that I like about, like, the sense of control in creating this type of works, because and these type of things, because I know that if I'm feeling good in the earlier stages of the game, quotes the game, or the creation process, that means that I'm in the right track. And I need to just continue to push, make things better and better. It doesn't mean that I need to settle with the first iteration of our sketch. No. If it works, I will do everything in my power to make it better. But I don't want to lose the basic essence that already works. Because I control the results. So I created this not randomly. Everything was planned. The placement of the statues was planned. The tilt of the walls was planned. The gateway in here was planned. The direction of the table was planned. The placement of the characters, their poses, the placement of these forgot. the piles of Transformers parts, broken Transformers parts, was planned. Quintess under the table and the particular pose that she needs to be depicted in, the so-called chairs in the forms of the Transformers heads was planned. The placement of the table accessories was planned to create a specific direction from one point to the other point. Again, I still probably will place this thing a little bit lower. This is something actually to consider. When I'm going to work on final composition, I will definitely make changes with the placement of table accessories, but for the most part, almost everything kind of works fine. I like how everything placed, I like how the compositional flow works, I like how dynamic works in here, and it kind of creates pretty uneasy feeling. Like, for instance, if we're going to mirror things, the things starting to become a little bit uneasy. So, okay, this one, okay, let's just create a new layer. This one basically leads us in this direction. Let's choose super bright red. Okay, this one leads us into the one direction. Then this direction basically interrupts by this diagonal. And now we're having something like straight in here. Then we're going to the other diagonal. Then we have this diagonal. Then we have again this diagonal, his diagonal, and we have diagonal here, right here, right here, right here. Like, it's pretty busy. It seems like it's all over the place, but it's not. It still works because it creates the needed the feeling of uneasiness, which we need to create, because again, if we're going to go into our mood, this is the aftermath, after the battle. We need to represent the sense of release or relief for the angry birds, and this sense of relief just basically represented by the storytelling, the fact that they're actually kind of relaxed and have fun by having a tea party, throwing a tea party. It's obvious that they're victorious by the Quintess under the table, the Transformers hands that they're sitting or standing on, and these piles of Transformers parts. All these things are kind of suggest, okay, these guys are done. They won, everything's fine. But at the same time, not everything is easy. So subconsciously, by adding a lot of diagonals in here, although right here it's pretty calming situation, so okay, they kind of won and now they feel relief. But by creating these diagonals, we actually creating a hidden psychological dynamic that kind of makes things uneasy, and we still subconsciously feeling that something is wrong. And if we're going to pay attention to what could be wrong, we actually now starting to figure out, okay, Transformers might come to life, and Angry Birds, they're not actually done. So although for the most part Transformers are lost and they destructed, they lost, but there's a hope here, and this hope is actually connected with the relief that they're having. And when we clashing hope and relief, which both positive feelings, but at the same time they are coming from different sides. Two positives are going to, instead of attract, actually the opposite is going to happen, because there's two opposite sides. So yeah, this is like bunch of things about psychology. I will talk about this more and more and more. So yeah. Again, this is the thing that I love about the way of creating that I actually chose. I want to implement a lot of psychology elements into work. I want to control things this way, as I explained it now. This is something that makes me I don't know, super I don't know, I like this. I even love this. I don't know, this is something that makes me super happy, because every time that I'm actually controlling all these things, again, viewer might not see everything in here, but I want to do my best to suggest as much as possible for the viewer to look at and to analyze. And if I will do this properly, and viewer will actually react at this work at least the halfway as I want for the viewer to act or behave particular way, by some sort of creating the feeling of control. I don't know, it's like, I don't know, I guess you could say that the artists that are doing these type of psychological things, they actually trying to control the viewer's emotions. And the thing is, if you're going to see every movie or every decent movie or series or well designed show or well written show, you are going to feel particular emotions. The reason why you're actually feeling particular emotions is because the creators of these shows, series, and films, and the same goes for music, all these artists that were behind these creations, they are created a specific psychological way of controlling, or not, I don't want to say controlling, I think it's better the way of directing the viewers into a proper feeling. So it's not per se that you telling the viewers how to feel. You create a specific triggers which could make viewers feel specific way depending on their psychological state at that time. So there's a lot of psychological elements in here, and of course there's a lot of factors that we need to consider. Of course, the state of the viewer, that because if viewer is not going to ready to receive the information that we presented, it's not going to work. If we're not going to depict something clear enough and create confusion, a viewer is just going to see that everything is so complicated that he's just going to tune out our work and it's not going to look at it, and it's not going to try to understand this. So we need to create something that properly balanced. It needs to be simple enough, but at the same has some level of complexity to it, but it needs to be pretty relatively simple to understand for the probably say it. Okay, this word in English, I don't want to say average. The average viewer. No, it doesn't sound that good. But yeah, let's call it like that. So in order for the average viewer to understand this, because again, some people will understand it better, some people understand it not going to understand anything that we did, but we need to aim everything that we create on the larger masses. That's why we need to kind of simplify things a little bit more, although I would ideally add a lot of complexity to this one to so-called impress the viewers. I don't know, but the problem is it's not going to benefit us. We need to find some type of a way of balancing the complexity with simplicity and present something that viewers could digest. So-called, yeah. So yeah, I guess on this note we will slowly going to end the session, because again, I did what I set out to do. I figured out the proper values for the things that we need to create, which is an awesome thing. The last thing that I'm going to do is, let's find our layer. Wait a minute. Do you really wanna make it black and white to get rid of the colors that we already depicted, and just see how things are going to look. Okay, 38, 30. Again, it's still pretty unclear separation, but it's enough to actually depict or separate them from each other. Because again, I can't go darker, because if I can go darker, we're not going to see Bomb. We're just going to lose him. I don't want to lose Bomb. He's a pretty crucial character, although it's not like the main focus, but still, as I said before, psychologically viewer will be looking at the Bomb first, because he is directed to the viewers. He's just basically not per se looking at the viewers, he's just like facing the viewer the most. They're kind of a little bit turned to the back, so yeah, that's why we don't want to lose him. So yeah, so I can't make floor darker. Also, I can't make these lighter and darker, I guess, too, at least at this stage, because then I'm going to lose the local color. But they still are going to be visible, because again, we're going to have colors, and colors will make our job a little bit easier in here, because I think I did everything that I could in terms of the values at this point, considering my limited level of experience. I think I did a decent job to actually separating this, and at the same time by controlling the state of the color. So without losing the color, I made things kind of work. Because again, the more things we have to consider, the harder it is to make choices. Because ideally, okay, if I had only red here, I could experiment with the floor whatever I want. I could make it super light, I could make it super dark, it wouldn't matter. But this floor is going to affect not the red only, it's going to affect Bomb, it's going to affect Chalk, and it's actually not going to affect Bubbles, because for the most part this part of the Bubbles is going to be affected, but nothing much in here. So yeah, it's going to affect table, it's going to affect statues, it's going to affect walls, and yep, this wall is going to affect Chalk, so we need to make this wall particular value to make Chalk stand out and create controllable amount of separations here. So I think I actually did a pretty good job. Just like putting myself through a constructive criticism. This is a good way to actually have the ability to make self-evaluations, because you need to learn how to self-evaluate yourself in order to understand, in order to control things. And this is one of the reasons why I'm actually like diving into these small details and small, sometimes even annoying things, because the reason why I'm doing this, because that way it allows me to control myself and like almost teach myself, because I'm trying to be a good teacher for myself. That could make me in the future a good teacher for others, probably, or hopefully, because I actually planning to teach others in the future. It's a long way to go, and it's probably, I don't know, I can't tell if I'm going to be a good teacher or not. It works for me, the way that I am putting myself, that I'm presenting myself, things to myself. But again, every individual is different, and presenting something for different individuals could be a completely different way. So it's not that easy thing to actually educate others and teach them, because you need to understand their problems, you need to understand their psychology, and there's a lot of things to teaching that makes it super hard. It's not just only, okay, I know things and now I'm telling you things. No, you need to put things the proper way for the particular person to understand, so it's a lot more work put into it. Okay, so yeah, I already gone too far, so let's just end this session. Again, like the results, kind of cool, still feeling the thing that I need to feel from it. We still have the main focus that right away attracts attention, this white blank sheet of tablecloth. The table accessories are going to be pretty shiny too, which will attract more attention to them. The vivid colors of Angry Birds will attract attention, so this is the main focus, and we basically break it down pretty good in terms of like how it's going to work in conjunction with each other, separately, and whatever. Next session I will continue to work with colors, because again, right now the main concern was to put down the values of all subjects in the scene to fit our main values, and a lot of compromises was made, but I think I've actually end up with pretty good result, at least at this point. Again, when we're going to work with more colors and with materials, and we'll add lighting, cast shadows, and other shadows, things will slightly change, but for the most part the overall feeling is here, and overall value breakdown, which is the most important part, because now we actually can control it, which is super awesome. I will think about making this one actually this value. I don't think that it actually needs to be dark. We will think about that, because it kind of creates a little bit of a distraction, but at the same time it kind of creates the bridge between these two characters, or between statues, and kind of directs the attention to them psychologically. But again, we will think about that later. So yeah, let's just save, let's just close everything and slowly end the session. Yeah, I've gone 15 minutes more, just basically strictly talking and talking and talking. I guess, yeah, most parts of the session I was pretty quiet, pretty worn out, and now I'm like, I kind of get the second breath, I don't know, and actually at the end finish the session the proper way. So yeah, on that note, we'll definitely end the session. Where are words? My brain doesn't work. Yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.